I think of a number and I add 12. My answer's 18. What was my number? Well, it was 6, wasn't it? What about if I change it to, I think of a number and multiply it by 4, then subtract 15. My answer's 9. What was my number? That's a wee bit harder, and you might even be wondering why I'm giving you maths questions. So let me explain. I'm Alison, and you'll not be surprised to know that I am actually a maths teacher. However, I haven't got this video mixed up with my remote learning video on algebra. But I want you to think about that question. Take your final answer of 9, work backwards, and you might be able to solve the problem. I think of a number, multiply it by 4, then I subtract 15. My answer is 9. What was my number? How many times when we're in the middle of a problem do we struggle to find the answer? But whenever we look back, when we come out the other side, when we have the answer, we can work backwards to see how things came together and how we finally came to the solution. As a Christian, I believe that we can look back and very much see how God has been at work in the midst of our problems and difficulties, piecing things together, bringing us to a solution to our problem. I want to share one experience where this has definitely been the case for me. So many years ago, I worked as a maths teacher, but I chose to leave work when our eldest child was born. One child became 4, and my career break lasted a bit longer than I'd originally expected. As the children got older and became a bit more independent, and I started to consider going back to work, or possibly my husband started to give me a gentle push to go back to work, all I could see were the problems. Even though our 3 boys were getting older and more independent, our daughter, who has special needs, still needed a parent to be there for her when she wasn't at school. How could I go out to work early in the morning and also have her ready and put her on her bus to school? My school day would be longer than hers, and someone needed to be there in the afternoon for her coming home. And if I decided to do substitute teacher work, how would we manage the issues of last minute phone calls night before or that morning to go into work and then have to sort out childcare at very short notice? But apart from all of that, I hadn't actually taught in 17 years, and although I knew the maths hadn't changed much, I was pretty sure the technology had in that time. I wasn't even sure if I could mark the roll. In the middle of the situation, I didn't know what the answers were. However, for the last 3 years I have been working as a teacher, and now, looking back, I can see how God provided me with a job that would work for our whole family. My timetable was basically sorted so that I could be at home whenever I needed to be for my daughter. The bus run worked out with a very helpful bus driver, and not only that, I ended up in the school that I had taught in years before with some of the colleagues that I had worked with then. And I was easily able to go and ask them silly questions that I might not have asked others about the tech and the things that have been worrying me. As I look back on how this all pieced together, I can see that God's hand was in it all. He knew how it could work, and He was in each detail, and even in the conversations, letting people know that I was available to work. God worked through the problem, and I could only see it when He revealed the solution. It does look now like things are about to change again with work in the near future, but this time I know that God knows the solution long before I will, and I can trust Him to work out His plans for me once again. But that's not the way things always work out in life. We all experience difficulties. Someone in our family gets sick and doesn't recover. A relationship breaks down. For us, our daughter's learning difficulties mean that she's not experiencing the life that we would have planned for her. However, we can see how God has blessed us through having her in our family and led us to do things that we would never have done if it wasn't for her situation. And how she's a happy teenager without the worries many others her age face. God still works through all of these situations. We just don't always get the outcome that we expect or want. I have a quote on the wall of my classroom that says, "Mathematicians aren't people who find maths easy. They're people who enjoy how hard it is." I'd like to flip that a little bit and say to you that Christians aren't people who always find life easy, but they are people who can know God's joy and God's peace in the midst of how hard it is. And that's the difference that God makes in my life. It doesn't mean that I'm always laughing, and it doesn't mean that things always work out the way I want, but it does mean that I have peace in my heart, knowing that God is in control and that ultimately He knows what's best for me. And even in difficult times, He's using those circumstances to change me and make me into the person that He wants me to be. Philippians 4 verses 6 and 7 from the Message says this: "Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down." It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the centre of your life. And that would be my prayer for you, that you would know His peace in your life too. And if you're wondering, the second answer was also 6.